That's the problem now. Men is not crying. They running through their emotions and just running through, not facing stuff.
Well, that's incorrect. That's why you need guidance, because someone that cries, that means that they don't have the ability to have control of their emotions. So you saying that that's the problem with men nowadays? No, the problem with men nowadays is that they're more emotional. An emotional man ends up in prison. An emotional man would steal something. An emotional man will punch you in the face for saying something maybe that he doesn't like because it triggered his emotion. An emotional man will be hitting a woman.
Hiding it inside, shoving it down,
crying and letting it out.
When you let it, this is very simple. When you let it out, they go to prison. When you let it out, they shoot up a school. When you let it out, they steal. That's when they let it out. You're looking at it all wrong. The emotional, intelligent person gets things done, acts a certain way, despite how they feel. Dang, homie was spitting.
Oh,
who was
nice.
that guy?
Who was that guy?
God damn.
All right, does anybody have a comment on that
I have
specifically?
a comment.
Go ahead, Miranda.
So I think the woman's perspective is that they think that men should release their emotions in a way, not in front of their woman, but in a way that allows them to get it out of their system. When they suppress their emotions, say their father died or their mom died, and they literally refuse to cry and they don't let it out, tears are actually like trauma and emotion coming out of the body. You need to release that. And when you constantly suppress that emotion and say something just randomly triggers you one day, that's when they snap. That's when they hit the individual and go to jail. It's because they have all of these emotions that have been suppressed over time, and it builds and builds and builds. So finally it hits a point where they explode.
Do you think you can?
I don't buy it. I mean, if I'm gonna be honest, I don't buy it. I don't I don't buy it. What? I don't buy it. Like, you're telling me that women, when they see men cry, like, and I've experienced this personally. When a woman sees a man cry, something in her changes. Something in her starts to feel insecure, unsafe. Something in her starts to feel unsettling. An emotional man is a man that is unstable. It's a man that is very volatile. And that is almost dangerous. Sometimes women, I don't even think women actually know what they're asking for. They want an emotional man. Do they even know what that is, what that means? You want an emotional, you want to see a man cry? When you see a man, I mean, seeing a man cry is not, if a man experiences, I don't know, death in the family or something like that, yeah, he tears up, sure. He cries, sure. But not in a way that women do, but he tears up, he cries in a manly way. That's fine. But when women say that they want an emotional man, a man that is always in tune with his emotions, yeah, those men, there's a whole bunch of them. They're in prison. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of them. Go to the ghetto, you see them. I'm not even sure women actually understand what an emotional man is or what he's capable of. And even men crying, like especially the way women do when you go to the movies, or when you see a movie, you cry when something like that you could deal with as a man happens to you. I'm not saying death, but something, I don't know, you lose your job or something and you're crying about it. Yeah, that kind of stuff, it loses attraction for women. It happens time and time and time again. Women will tell you that they want XYZ. When XYZ presents itself, they don't take it so well. So I don't buy it that women want this emotional man that is just always, in his feelings. And that's all BS, man. That's all BS. I don't buy it. Don't fall for it, guys. Do not fall for it. If you want to cry, if something tragic happens to you, you want to cry, that's fine. But I would suggest don't do it in front of your lady. Go to your boys. If you have something bothering you and you want to let it out, go to your boys. Women cannot handle, me personally, I don't believe that any woman can handle that. Any woman can handle seeing a man being vulnerable, especially in that kind of state. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's just my opinion. Anyway, let's go back in.
Get
That's what I
clean
think.
water before you drink it.
What do you? What kind
Do
of
you think
question
you
is
get
that?
clean water before you drink it? You just said that. Well, it's good for people to just they need to go ahead and let it out because that helps them deal with it, right? Do you think you get clean water before you drink it? So that means that do you think you can handle what's going inside before you let it out?
I'm
God
not
dang,
sure
you didn't get that?
how that
Oh,
question.
what the-
No.
Okay,
I-
never mind.
Does
Like,
anybody
really?
else get that
Why
question?
am I understand
you
what
could,
you mean?
you could clean what's inside, meaning that before you drink water, we got to clean water. It has to go through cycles before that water gets clean, before we drink it, right? So I'm saying that that's with your emotions. Your emotions, before you let your emotions out, you need to do some internally thinking, right? Well, one, you can't be all in your feelings.
Yeah, you need to process your emotions. That's
You
what I'm saying.
Regulate your emotions.
Yeah.
You need to regulate your
Miranda.
emotions. And this
Yeah.
is why you need guidance from a man, because women lack the ability to regulate their emotions.
Okay, I'm just gonna point this out. Ready?
What is?
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay. Let's get into chronology here, right? We have way more testosterone than women do.
Mhm.
Some of the attributes of testosterone.
Okay.
You'll notice that guys, when they get on TRT, they'll get off of Adderall because they can focus more. Because that's what our ancestors did, our hunter-gatherer ancestors. We would have more testosterone. We'd be able to focus more. We have more muscle mass. We have more protein synthesis, which builds bigger muscles and more dense bone structure. Okay. And so because of that, because we have the, oh gosh, what was the thing he was just saying? I just lost my train of thought here.
Oh no.
You
Emotional.
got to clean the water
Regulating
before you
Oh yeah.
drink it.
Okay, hold on. I'm sorry. Oh yeah, I remember what I was saying. For us, we'll feel, this is really crazy. I tried to explain this to a girl I was dating. I feel the same emotions you do. The difference is because of the way testosterone has made me, I get a positive emotion from accomplishing shit. Does that make sense? Testosterone makes effort feel good. I love it after that sore feeling after I lift weights. You're probably familiar with that feeling, right? Okay. So that feeling of like accomplishing a goal, what happens is I may have all these emotions tied up in me, but like I have to go take care of my sales team and run my company and like take care of my family, even if I don't feel like it. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
And then afterwards, once I accomplish the goal, even though I don't feel like it, I don't break down and shoot a school. I feel great because I accomplished something instead of I have the emotional regulation to not act out on it. Does that make sense? And I will tell you, testosterone is a major reason why men are like that. And you'll see like a lot of times when guys get in low T and they start producing a lot of estrogen, they start getting the man boobs or whatever. That's when you start seeing, keep my wife's name out of your fucking mouth. That's where that came. I'm telling you, by the way, I guarantee you what happened with Will Smith. He's on TRT and he didn't take an estrogen blocker. And that's why he started that. I guarantee you that's what happened.
It did sound like that. now that you mentioned
Keep
it.
my wife's name out of your fucking mouth. That's the cracking. That's estrogen. I'm telling you, that's what happened there. So in this situation, what happens is for us, we still have feelings like you do, right? The thing is, we express our feelings, or we express love through my man Wes Watson. He says this: love is a verb, right? There's love, waving a flag, saying I love the United States of America, and then there's those men who stormed Normandy and were willing to die. That's a different type of love through action. Does that make sense? Where does that love expression through action come from? It comes from masculine energy. That is what being masculine is, doing a thing. Right. So we're expressing ourselves just like you are, except we don't need to cry and be vulnerable in order to do it. Does that make
At
sense?
0 point, did I say that men needed to cry? And I
No,
did
no,
not
no,
say that men
but-
should cry in front of their woman either.
Right. But
I
in
said
this,
that they need to deal with their emotions.
I think in this clip, that's what the woman's, that's what her point was.
Oh,
David was there.
Okay,
Maybe.
well, that's
Yeah.
not what I was hearing. I thought she was just saying that men need to.
By the way, if you're a man and you have a child with a woman and she's been a good wife to you and you want to cry the first time you have a child, that's totally, but she earned that. She earned that. When you first meet a woman, fellas, if you are crying or bitching about the fact that you got cheated on, you are a moron. That is not what you
So
should
let
do.
me see if I can add a little bit to this too, because every time the topic of emotions comes up, everybody seems to think that men and women like are exactly the same when it comes to processing emotion. We are not. You do not have the same hardware. You literally have different wiring in your brain than men have in their brains. So
I've never understood why women will always think that we are the same. Men and women are different. We process emotions differently. A woman will see something, breaks down and cry. A woman will get their period, will break down and cry. Women cry about all kinds of something that we would consider nonsensical. They do that a lot. They are neurotic. Okay, so men, we are not. I wish we did. Well, I don't know, but men, we are not. men are not wired like women. We are not that emotional. We can't be that emotional. I've never understood why women cannot conceptualize the idea that we are different. The way we process things are different. You know, I really don't understand. Like, I've seen this conversation happen so many times. Women will always think, why aren't men doing, being emotional as we are? Why aren't men crying as we are? Why aren't men doing all kinds of stuff like we do? We don't, because we are different. We process things differently. Okay, if a woman sees a man break down and cry over some goofy stuff, that woman would never respect that man. That woman would never respect, would never be in a relationship with that man, or we lose attraction for that man. And we have seen this happen time and time and time again. I've never understood why women will always think that men and women are the same when it comes to us, processing and navigating our emotions. We are different. Most men don't cry because we're not wired that way. It's not because we are told not to cry. No, because we are not wired that way. It has to take something extreme for us to break down and let it out. And for the guys that do let it out, they're in jail. The guys that do let it out, they do real damage. And you do not want to see that. I have never understood this whole thing, why women cannot understand that both of us are different. We are two different species, like a man and a woman. We are two different people. Different biologically. And why can't they understand this? I've never understood that. Anyway, let's go back in. This video is interesting.
This, which is duty. Men actually have a duty to suppress their emotions. The reason we have a duty to suppress our emotions, and in society we have a duty to suppress our emotions, is because when that guy's pissed off, he can rip the doors off the fucking hinges, throw them across the room, and if it hits you, it would kill you, literally.
Yeah,
it's not a joke.
Because the default is to anger, and the default is to fight.
When men get super angry, they become the Incredible Hulk. To me, it's so funny because the amount of damage that even the average man can do, women generally in modernity are spared from seeing that, right? You, though, you were in the military, men can be extremely savage.
Well, the one thing
so
that
I think,
go ahead.
But I think that we're raised in an environment, and always have been. Traditionally, we've always been raised where you have a greater duty to suppress and control your emotions, not only so that you don't damage the environment that's around you and damage women and damage everything else, but even so that you don't damage men. It's better to cooperate with men. That's a higher duty than to damage the things that are around you with anger and emotion.
Yeah. One of the things that I've been dying to ask both of you to get your perspectives is, because I was in the military, I saw a lot of men go inward, almost to a detriment, where they unalived themselves. I literally was thinking of one particular person that was in the bunk just a couple bunks over from me that unalived himself. And this is the highest rate of unaliving is with men.
Sure.
And so, talk to me about that. Give me a little bit of information. You're talking about men process emotions differently, et cetera. There's obviously a reason
they
they're
have a
having
great
this issue.
burden of duty on their shoulders, and especially if they're in the military, that duty increases drastically as responsibility gets put on their shoulders. It's no surprise to me that if you put heaps and heaps of duty on a person without any form of praise or any type of kind of societal push to help that person as well, that's why you see those rates. Anytime I look, even if you break it down ethnically, you break it down racially, it always seems to be people who are in the fields where they have kind of the greater duties, which are for family, for king, for country, whatever it is, that you see, usually in their 30s or 40s. It's just too much. They're not getting any form of support, including from other men. And that's usually why they end up self-terminating.
I believe the rates of attempted taking your own life are about the same for men and women.
Oh, really?
But men tend to use firearms and jump off of things and then hang themselves, whereas women tend to use pills.
Not in the military.
Yeah. What do you mean?
In the military, that doesn't hold true. So men and women in the military,
men commit. Yeah,
well, far and away more.
Well, I think why that might be the case in the military is because if I'm a woman in the military, my options with men are plentiful, and if I'm a man in the military and I'm at Fort Bragg, or if I'm at Fort Hood, or if I'm Clovis, New Mexico, my options with women are minimal. I may also be deployed and my wife may be doing whatever. Whereas if I'm a woman, I'm getting massive amounts of attention. I think that may have something to do with it.
Yeah, well, I also think that they have to do far more egregious jobs.
Oh,
in
for sure.
military.
Okay, I agree
And
with
I
that.
think that that's another, heavy contributing factor. But again, always when I look at these charts, I see it's the more duty with the least amount of, I don't know what you would call it, like societal kickback or thanks or something like this, support for hey, thanks for doing your duty. Thanks for doing your job. Seems to be always men who are in that position who are at the higher rates of self-termination.
Yeah.
But they definitely have a duty to suppress their emotion for the safety of everybody in their environment. Women who say this, they go, I wish you were more in touch with your emotions. No, the fuck you don't. Last thing you want me to do is touch my emotions. Last thing you want to do is see what goes on in my head. Last thing you want to do is see what I actually think about things. It's the worst thing possible.
That was actually the point I was getting at.
Yeah, best thing is for me to suppress all of it, and for you too.
For the last, ever since the sexual revolution, we have, because we believe in this blank slate bullshit, it's men need to express themselves more. They're bottling it up. They're doing this. And they need to be more emotionally expressive. They need to get in touch with their feminine side, because the feminine side, the idea is that there's some sort of animus balance between the two. And functionally, it's incorrect. This is a dead meme that we still
There is no
cling to
equilibrium.
today.
There is no
Yeah.
equilibrium. There is no equality.
But here my point was always this, is like, I always use this as an example. It's like, if just because you didn't cry at the end of Titanic doesn't mean you're like emotionally stunted as a male human being, because all the women are just crying over the what transpired. But the long and the short of this is that,
did you cry at the end of
no,
Titanic?
Of course, no. Saving Private Ryan, I did. No, but the at the end of the day, it's the idea is that men are functionally equivalent to women, and so therefore, if it made her cry and it's not making you cry, there must be something very wrong with you.
You don't feel.
Listen, I agree with everything Andrew said right there, because he articulated it better than I did. Ladies, listen. If you don't see your man cry or him breaking down or anything like that, that doesn't mean that he is emotionally stunted or he's too, or he's toxically masculine or whatever buzzwords that you're going to use to, describe him. It just means that you see that he's trying to shield that side away, shield that side away from you, or he's just processing his emotions differently. And for the most part, that is what men do. They just process things differently. They deal with it differently. Some of them I play sports. That's where I got all my emotions out. My aggression, all of it. That's where that is my outlet. Sports is my outlet. I play sports a lot. I don't know what I would do if sports isn't in my life. I do it all the time. That is my outlet. I bottle everything up inside and I let it out when I'm playing sport or I'm exercising. Some men, they have their own outlet. Every man have their own outlet. Most of the time, that's just it. Just because you haven't seen your man cry, or a man cry, your brother cry, your dad or your husband or boyfriend, whatever it is, it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean that, they are toxically masculine or there's something wrong with them. No, they're just processing it differently. And the sooner you guys understand that, the better. There's nothing wrong with us. We just process things differently because we are different. Women and men are different. I know it's shocking. In 2024, that is shocking to hear today. But women and men, we are different people. Okay, just because you're crying over any little thing and every little thing, that doesn't mean we have to do the same thing. That doesn't mean if we don't do the same thing, there's something wrong with us. We are just different people. We have different, every man, most men, they have their own outlet. Some men gamble, some men watch sports, some men play sports, some men do whatever it is. I don't know. Every man is different. I play sports. That's how I get my aggression out. Every man is different. So I don't think you guys want what you're asking for. I don't really think you guys want an emotional man, because those are the men that will put his hands on you. And I'm not sure you guys want that. Those are the men that will make you feel insecure because you don't know, because he's crying about him losing his job. Now you don't know where you stand with him. Now you don't know whether he's masculine enough to protect and provide for you. You don't want that. At least I don't think you want that. Unless you do, I don't know. Women nowadays, you guys are saying that you are attracted to these emo guys, this kind of feminine men. I don't even want to get into that. I don't even understand what that's about. But I hear it's a trend now, but I'm not even going to talk about that. But that's just it. Men, we process our emotions differently. My wife have never seen me cry. I hope nothing extreme happens where she sees me cry, but but I process my anger, I process my emotions differently from her. That's just what it is. Anyway, if you like the video, please hit that like button, hit the share button, leave your comments down below. I'll always love to read them. And if you may, please subscribe. You have a good one.